Right, 4:15. This is a short companion video to the last video we did that kind of blipped out a couple times. All right, so as per my email, the positive about the blips, not that there's ever a positive of blips, but at least it wasn't new information. It was just me trying to review and clarify some concepts from the previous lecture. So this is what kind of blipped out. I was going over that this movement strategy of the lower extremity would be simultaneous motion, right? Multiple joint motions moving at the same time for the goal or intent of accuracy and or force. Well, what's being accurate? The force that he's applying from his feet to the ground. Therefore, the ground applies that back to him, Newton's third law. You want to be very forceful, obviously, because he's doing so much weight. But with that force, it's like with great power comes great responsibility. The power kind of has the force component in it, and the responsibility has the accuracy. If you're responsible, you want to be accurate with what you're trying to accomplish and do. So he needs to be very accurate with his force straight down so that the ground can give his force straight up, so that that force can go through his body to the bar, because no across force is going to help get that weight up. Only up force is going to get that weight up. So you need to be accurate with your energy, okay? So this would be a simultaneous movement strategy that really emphasizes force and accuracy. Now, the other blip was where we went over the muscles and the contraction. Now, the muscles at the knees or the hip are going to be the same because the forces, ground and gravity, is trying to do the same motion to him regardless of if he's going down or coming up. Same external forces, same agonist. The variations in the motions, the fluctuations between knee extension and knee flexion, hip extension, hip flexion, isn't going to be because of different muscles. It's going to be because of different contraction types of the same muscles. Variations in motion because of variations in contractions of those same agonists. So knee extensors, how do I know? Because if he turned off his knee extensors, he'd fall. Hip extensors, how do I know? Because if he turned them off, he would fall. Ground and gravity is trying to flex the hip. You don't need hip flexors. Hip flexors and knee flexors would literally pull his feet off of the ground. That wouldn't be very good, right? Think about it. If you used your hip flexors with an unweighted leg, your leg would come up off the ground, right? I kind of look like I'm doing, okay? So it's the same thing here. If he actually used his hip flexors, he'd pull his hips up and he'd not be a good day with all that weight. Hip extensors, knee extensors, on his way down, we associate muscles with motion only when we add the element of contraction, right? You have to have that third ingredient. So I know that my hip extensors are doing a job here because the weight and the ground is trying to flex my hip. So if I observe hip flexion on the way down, the only way the hip extensors can be responsible for the hip flexion is through eccentric contraction. Same thing, if he's going down, I'm going to observe knee flexion. Well, I know the knee extensors are doing a job here, so the only way the knee extensor is responsible for knee flexion through eccentric contraction. So him going down is eccentrics. You could prove it with your equation, just like you'd prove 4 plus 3 is equal to 7 through a math equation. It's the same concept. Okay. Coming back up, same agonist, hip extensors, knee extensors, but now my motion I observe is different. I observe hip extension. Hip extensors produce hip extension through concentric work. Knee extensors produce knee extension through concentric work. And if he just held that position, bless him, I paused it. That'd be hard to hold that position with 450 pounds. But if he held that position, then you'd still be working the same muscles, but their job would now be isometric contraction, isometric work. To literally, the way you look at it is, when the elevator stops, that cable that's pulling up is still doing a job. It's pulling up to prevent you from falling down while you get off of the elevator, come on the elevator. So it's the same thing. These muscles are still doing a job through isometrics. They're maintaining a certain position that you want and preventing you from collapsing down. Okay? So those were the blips. videos where I went over the movement strategy for this exercise, simultaneous motion, force and/or accuracy. Now, when I say force and/or accuracy, you can, as the example that I gave in the dart motion, right, simultaneous for accuracy, you don't need a lot of force to throw a dart. So you can be accurate without a lot of force. But if you're providing maximum force, your intent is to be accurate, deliberately accurate with that force in order to get the work done that you're trying to do. Work implies moving something or trying to move something. So you can be accurate without necessarily max force, but if you're providing max force, it behooves you to be accurate with it, okay? All right, guys, I hope this little companion video helped you guys, and y'all be well.